Welcome to the Alain Guillot podcast, a podcast about life, leadership, and money matters. Our guest today is Julia Pimsleur. Julia is a scaling coach and a mindset expert, founder of Million Dollar Woman. Julia's first book is called Million Dollar Woman, and today we will speak about her second book, Go Big Now. 8 essential mindset practices to overcome any obstacle and reach your goal. Julia, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's great to be here with you. How are you?
Fine. So I've been reading your book, Julia, and of course, I'm a mindset nerd, and I love it. I love that you break it up in 8 principles. Uh, but before we get to the topic of the book, I would like to find out a little bit about you. How is it that you got into the coaching business? What was your business background, etc.?
I became a coach because I had so many great coaches who helped me, Alain. I built a business from scratch into a multi-million dollar business in the language teaching space. It was called Little Pim, P-I-M, like my last name, Pimsleur. And we were helping children ages 0 to 6 to learn a foreign language at the age they learn best, which is very young. So I started that company without any business background. I was a filmmaker and kind of a creative person. So I came up with this cool idea for a multimedia series to teach kids a foreign language. But the business part, I had to learn on the job. And it was much harder than I thought to balance the books, to learn how to do the marketing, to hire people and make sure they do what you want them to do. You know, all the things that you have to get right to build a successful business. And I really only was able to build that business into a successful business because of coaches, mentoring, an entrepreneurial program I joined. And that really inspired me to want to help other people get access to that same mentorship, coaching, and training.
So you are dealing with your first business. At what moment into your business story came the idea of getting a coach? Did someone suggested that to you, or were you actively searching for help? How did that came about? Because many people just continue struggling through their business career or life without even the knowledge that they could get someone to coach them or help them or guide them.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I feel like it's the best kept secret that most successful people have had coaches. And in my case, I was really close to shutting down my business. I'll be honest. We were about 4 or 5 years in. We'd made it to $400,000 per year in revenues. So not bad, but I was working all the time. I had 2 little boys at home who were 3 and 6. And I was one of the main breadwinners in the family. So I felt a great deal of pressure and anxiety, and I was working way too hard and paying myself way too little. So I almost shut down. And I remember my lawyer said, well, have you ever thought of joining an entrepreneurial program? And it never would have occurred to me, but because he suggested it and he was part of EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization, I researched that. And they said, well, you need to have $1 million in revenue to join, which I didn't, but they had a program to help you get to $1 million. So that was my first experience with coaching. I joined that program. I spent money I did not have. It was very scary to put that on my credit card, but I remember thinking, Ella, if this has worked for other people, why don't I learn what they've learned? And either I'll find out I'm not cut out for this and I shouldn't be a CEO and I'll go back to being a creative person, or maybe I will have the same success they did. And happily, it turned out that once I learned what to do, it was, not that hard to do it. And I got the business to $1 million and 2 million and, kept going.
So you mentioned that most successful people have coaches, and this is not as you just said, it's a well-kept secret. How come we don't know more about this? I mean, if I see the Olympics or any professional sports, we can always see the coach in the background, either encouraging or pushing the athletes farther, and that's so clearly visible. How come it's not more visible in business?
That's a great point. I know for me, when I was considering getting yet another coach after I'd had, one business coach, but I thought, well, do I get a coach for public speaking? I wanted to do more public speaking. And I was reading William Isaacson's biography of Steve Jobs. And maybe that's not the author's name, but whatever.
It is. I have it right here in my book.
Oh, good. Okay. I was like, that didn't sound right as I said it, but okay. So I was reading the biography of Steve Jobs at the time, and I remember Steve Jobs admitting, or not admitting, just sharing that he had a public speaking coach. Right up until when he died, he met with a public speaking coach regularly. And he was known as one of the top presenters in the entire entrepreneurial world. So for me, that was like a big aha. It was like, well, wait a minute. If Steve Jobs thought it was okay to have a coach, then maybe it's okay for me to have a coach. And I found out as I started sharing with more entrepreneurs that I was using coaches, not just one, multiple coaches, that many other people were as well. So I think it's starting to shift a little bit.
Okay, and the way that Steve Jobs would go around finding a coach, and the way somebody else, the one who opened a corner store in my neighborhood, finds a coach is completely different. Can you tell us a little bit about how would someone would find a coach depending on the scale of business that they are doing, or would it be the same coach?
Well, I think finding a coach who has, one, done what you're trying to do is very important, and two, worked with people who have your same set of problems, right? One of the reasons I'm able to help the women in my community so much, and million dollar women, is that one, I was them, right? I know exactly what it feels like to be running a business where you're not sure how to do the things you need to do to get to a million. You know, we help our women get to 1 million in revenues. So there's that. But then there's also the fact that I specialize in women making between 75,000 and 750,000 US dollars per year. So that's a very specific set of problems, Alain, right? At that set phase of business, it's always the same set of problems. You know, how do I delegate and outsource? How do I have the capital to scale up? How do I hire the best people and manage them? And so I'm an expert in those things. So if you're thinking of hiring a coach, you want to look at who is an expert in the set of problems I have, and then have they done the thing that they're coaching me to do, right? Because some coaches, it's a little bit like therapists, right? Like not all therapists are as good as each other, but they're all called therapists. So you want to check in with friends, check in with people who've worked with them, and make sure that, you know, they are someone who can actually help you.
Right. One thing that I found peculiar about people who have a good coach is imagine for a second that you have a babysitter who is always ready to help you out whenever you have an emergency, and that baby, you call that babysitter and she comes and she takes care of your kids. If you share the phone number of that babysitter with too many people, then that babysitter may not be there for you when you need her. And I find that in the case of coaching, if I want to find a coach and I go to the internet, I will find a coach that has become an expert on SEO, search engine optimization, which not necessarily means is the best coach for me. And finding a coach for me will be, I find it a little bit of a challenge because I just don't know where to go, who to trust, or what would be the first step to find that ideal person.
Well, a lot of coaches have written books that talk
Yeah.
about their philosophy. So a lot of my coaching clients have read my first book, Million Dollar Women, which is all about how I scaled up my business and the obstacles I overcame. So if some of those obstacles speak to them, right, then they know I might be a good coach for them. Plus, they already know my style. They know that I'm direct. They know that I like to use humor. And if that works for them, right, then we might be a good fit. My second book, Go Big Now, is all about mindset. And so people who are struggling with mindset or think they need help with limiting beliefs, right, they're probably going to contact me after reading that book. So I would say that's a great place to start, is read some books by authors who are also coaches, and whoever resonates with you, you know, see what kind of programs they have, either group programs or one-on-one programs.
Okay, well that makes sense. Okay, so you got some help from a coach, you built your business, and eventually, at a given moment, you decided to write your first book, $1 Million Business. So can you tell us what was going on in your head and why you said, okay, now I can write a book about this topic?
I really wrote Million Dollar Women because I was mad. I learned that fewer than 3% of women entrepreneurs ever get to 1 million in revenues. And it's fewer than 1% for women of color. And for men, it's twice as many. About 6% of men get to 1 million. And that just made me mad. I was like, wait a minute, really? We've come all this way as women, and yet were not getting into the big scalable numbers. So many women start businesses, but very few women scale them up. And I knew, since it had been my case, that it wasn't that I wasn't smart or driven or determined. I just hadn't learned the business skills. So I really wanted to create an opportunity for many, many more women to get access to those business skills. And that's what inspired me to start teaching women. The book grew out of some teaching. I was teaching women in my conference room on weekends here in New York City how to scale up their businesses. And that led to helping 75 women raise $15 million collectively for their businesses. And that felt great to see their businesses grow and thrive. And then I decided to write the book so that I could reach more women and get my weekends back.
Wow. Okay. I find it a little bit frustrating that more women don't start their own business. I see all these books about how to go up the corporate ladder if you are a woman, how to break barriers and whatever. And it seems like in that scenario, you are always asking permission from the permission giver. Can I go
Yeah.
up one more step up the ladder? Do I have your permission to do this? Can I get a promotion to do that? Well, if you are an entrepreneur, you start your own business, then you don't have to ask permission to anyone. I got into entrepreneurship because I felt like I was a victim of discrimination. I had a very funny accent in French. I still have a funny accent in English. And I felt like no one wanted to give me a job because of my accent. And I said, screw this. I'm going to open my own business
I
and
love
no
it.
one's going to tell me what to do or how to do it. And I'm just going to grow as much as I want to grow. So I feel a little bit of frustration that women are just continue asking for permission instead of saying, screw this, you keep your business, your job, I'm going to open my own business.
Well, it's a great point, and more women are doing that. In the US, over the last 2 decades, women have started twice as many businesses as men. So women are the fastest growing demographic in entrepreneurship. That's the good news. But the bad news is most of these businesses are staying small. So 90% of them are making under $100,000 in revenues per year and have 0 employees. That's really where the work needs to be done. That being said, you're right that a lot of women are really fighting to get the sponsor, right, and get into the boardroom. And when they get frustrated with that, sometimes they do walk out and just create their own business. Where I feel like my calling is, Alain, is that they get away from the glass ceiling, right, where you hit your head on the glass ceiling, right, in corporate America. But now there's a new ceiling, which is the revenue ceiling. And a lot of women are hitting their heads on the revenue ceiling. And that's why we created our social venture, $1 Million Women. It really grew out of the book. When the book came out, women started contacting me from all over the country, asking for help, saying, hey, I'm just like you. I have a business. I love it, but I'm not making enough money. I didn't go to business school. I don't have a finance degree. Can you help? And so we created $1 Million Women, the social venture, which is half for-profit, half nonprofit. And we run business programs to help women figure out how to scale up their businesses.
This is amazing. I love this. Okay,
Thank
then
you.
now let's go back into the topic of go big now. What was the impetus to start this book?
It grew out of the first book, actually. When I wrote $1 Million Women, I was invited to speak to rooms of 100, 500, sometimes 1,000 people. And I would say, look, you only need 3 things to go big: the right mindset, the right skill set, and the right network. And then I would ask, which of those feels like the hardest to you? The mindset, the skill set, or the network? And in all these rooms, Alain, all hands would go up for mindset. And that was really interesting to me because I know for me, I never could have made the big changes I made in my business that allowed me to go from, I think I should shut this down, to raising 6 million in venture capital and turning it into a multi-million-dollar business if I didn't do a lot of mindset work. And so I wanted to make mindset changes and building mental resilience way more accessible for other people. And that's what inspired me to write Go Big Now, is to take all these learnings I've had over the last 15 years and coaching. I've been coaching people about mindset in my practice and make it just very easy for anyone who wants to get started on having a more powerful mindset to do so.
Maybe I could be one of the biggest beneficiary of your book because I have started many businesses in the past, and all of them have been small, and I have never had the nerve to take my business to the next level. And I think my fear is a fear shared by millions of people. They start a little store in the corner, or a little, they become self-employed, but not necessarily a business owner. And that has been my fault. And I know that's the default of many millions of entrepreneurs, or I don't know if entrepreneur would be the right word. It would be self-employed people.
Well, and look, there's nothing wrong with creating a job for yourself, right? And having a lifestyle business. For a lot of people, that is what they want to do. And then for other people, they really want to have that big business with, employees and expanding and maybe franchising or going international. So the mindset tips I teach really can work for either, but they're probably most effective when you're reaching for something that feels just a little out of reach, right? Like maybe you want to grow by $100,000 or $200,000 and you have no idea how to do that. That's when you usually need a mindset shift. In fact, I will not say usually, always. You always need a mindset shift to get to the next level.
Well, many times it's not knowing how to get to the next level. It's just not having the courage to do it, which it has been my case. I have been too afraid to say, okay, now I need to expand. I need to, I don't know, borrow X amount of money to open a new branch or whatever. And that's where I always stop short.
Well, and that's such a great example. Thanks for sharing that, because you know that you could do those things, right? So why aren't you doing them? That's
fear,
mindset.
it's called fear.
Yeah, which is a mindset thing.
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, I was terrified when I went out and raised, 6 million in venture capital. I didn't do it all at once, but when I first went out to raise money, what was happening inside my head was, what? Who are you to get somebody with money to invest in you? You were a film major. You don't know about business and finance. And I had to really overcome all those limiting beliefs in order to even put myself in a situation to raise that money.
Yeah, well, my setback is not who are you to do this or propose to do this idea. Is what if you lose these other people's money? And that's my biggest fear. Asking for, help me out, put this venture scale bigger, but we could also lose some money, and that's not only
Sure.
me, but I guess to many other
You want me
people.
to answer that? Are you curious about the answer?
Yes, please.
Like, is this rhetorical or do you want me to coach you?
Not. Go ahead.
Okay, here's the thing. They're grown-ups, right? The people who would invest money in your company. And if they're experienced investors, they're making decisions all day long about what to invest in and what not to invest in. If they believe that your company has that potential, they know they're taking a risk. No investor ever thinks there's a guarantee. If they want a guarantee, they can put their money in the bank, right? And it can grow by 1%. It's not very interesting. That's why a lot of people invest in startups, because they get to go on a cool journey. They get to know the founder. We forget sometimes as entrepreneurs that we are this tiny percentage of the population. Less than 4% of people even considers being an entrepreneur. So there are a lot of people all around us who think it'd be fun to go on that ride. And so you could give them that opportunity. If we just shift your mindset away from, oh, what if I lose their money, to, hey, what a cool opportunity I'm giving someone to go on this ride with me. And I know that if they invest in me, I'm going to work my tail off to make this thing a success, right? Which you
Right.
can't say about everybody else. Because by the way, Alan, if they don't invest in you, they're going to invest in someone, right? And is that someone going to work as hard as you would work to make the business a success? I would guess not, seeing all the cool things you're doing. So what if you did that little mindset shift? How does that feel?
That sounds beautiful. I love it. Okay, well, thank you so much for that. I wonder if you could share. We have essential mindset practices. I wonder if you could, and you just gave me one for free. Thank you so much. I wonder if you could share one more with our listeners.
Oh, yeah, with pleasure. So one that I created, some of them are practices that I learned from some of the top mindset teachers. And then some are ones I created, I've been using with my coaching clients. So one that people have found really useful and that you can just put into practice right away is called T-BEAR. That's an acronym. So T-BEAR is TBEAR. And T Bear explains how your thoughts become results in your life. And the little exercise you and I just did illustrates it pretty nicely. So here's how this works. If you have a thought, that's the T, over and over again, it becomes a belief. That's the B. All beliefs have a positive or a negative emotion attached to them. That's the E. If you have a belief with a positive emotion attached to it, you'll take a lot of action. You'll be excited. You'll do a lot of cool things. That's the A, the action. But if you have a belief with a negative emotion attached to it, you'll take very little action. That's that A. And then, depending on whether you're taking lots of action with joy and enthusiasm, you'll get a certain result. Or if you're not taking very much action and kind of getting in your own way and sabotaging yourself, you'll take very little action and have that result. You see how that works?
I see. I see. Wow. Okay. So that's your chapter. Yeah. Your essential mindset practice number 4 in your book. Wow. This is, I have found this so useful. And of course, we want to leave something for the reader. So I wonder if you could tell us one more time the title of the book and where can people follow you?
Absolutely. And just to close out about T-Bear, once you get good at this, Alain, you can interrupt yourself having a thought that won't lead to a good result and change the thought so that you can have better results. Because the truth is, if you want different results, like more money, more love, more joy, you're going to have to go all the way back to the thoughts. That's the T of T-Bear. Change out the thoughts, and then the entire pattern changes and you get new results in your life. And this doesn't work sometimes. This works every time. Every single thing we have in our life that we like started with a thought. Like, right? Like I love interviewing people and I'm good at it. You probably had that thought over and over again and it became a belief and had a positive emotion attached to it. So you took a lot of action. You started a podcast. And as a result, you've got this cool podcast that so many people listen to and love.
Wow. Okay, Julia, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to ask you just one more question. Then, okay.
Yes, sure.
So, look, a lot of people have goals that they want to achieve. And what I find many times is when a person achieves one of those goals, then the feeling afterwards sometimes is emptiness. And I wonder, I mean, your book is about how to achieve goals, not what to do after you achieve them. But I wonder if you have any thoughts about what to do after you achieve a goal and now you're facing triumphants, but then without, a little bit empty because you achieved the thing that you wanted to achieve for such a long time.
Yeah, that's a great question. I do address that a bit in the book because I talk about how some people set goals without understanding the feelings behind the goals and what they're trying to make happen. And so we have a whole exercise in the book for what is the feeling you're going after? Because, if it's connectedness or if it's passion or if it's peace, you need to see if your goal is actually aligned with that. Sometimes people are chasing the wrong goal. And then when they get there, they realize, oh, it didn't give me the feeling I was looking for, right? People who make so much money doing something, but along the way, they get divorced and their kids don't talk to them, right? And they realize, oh, wait, I wanted to feel connected and now I feel even less connected. So there's an exercise in there that I think will help prevent that feeling from coming up because you'll be chasing a goal that has the feelings behind it that will last well beyond when you reach the goal.
Wow, this is golden. I suggest to all my listeners to go out and check out your book. Okay,
Thank you.
one more time. The last
One more
question.
time. Yes, it's called. I think you wanted me to say the book. Did you want me to say?
It's title of the book and where people can follow you.
Of course. So it's called Go Big Now: 8 Essential Mindset Practices to Overcome Any Obstacle and Reach Your Goals. And it's available on Amazon, on Audible, and wherever you buy books.
And where they can follow you and your podcast as well. You have a podcast.
I do, yes. You can find my podcast and my 100 blogs about mindset and scaling up at juliapimsleur.com. So that's my name, JuliaPimsleur.com. Or just Google Go Big Now or $1 Million Women and it should take you to me. I'm also very active on Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn. So, find me wherever you find people and I'd love to connect.
And for the listeners, all the links will be in the show notes. Julia, thank you so much for your time.
What a great conversation, Alain. You're really bringing incredible value to the listeners. So thank you for all you're doing to help entrepreneurs go big.